Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another fantastic episode of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join with me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Now, we talk about Foxborough, the greater Foxborough region, Massachusetts, and all of New England. There's been I guess we'll call it a new industry that has taken the town by storm, or the region by storm, and of course it is filmmaking. When the legislature and the governor many moons ago signed into law tax breaks for the motion picture film industry, it set off a wave of business coming into the area, and we know that there was a studio down in Plymouth, and I think all of us have either heard of a casting call or a need for extras, or have seen them in downtown Boston. Filming is fun, right? But there's a lot of work that goes into filming, and that's why my friend Wayne Simpson is here. Wayne, thank you so much for coming to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to learn all about filming, and I don't know a thing about it.
How much time you got?
Well, I'm on this side of the camera, first of all, so I don't know anything that goes on that side. Now, this is just cable access, which is very important. It's a part of what we do here in Foxborough, but there's so much more that goes into making a film. And is that what we're going to talk about today?
It encompasses so much that we could talk for the next 24 hours.
All right.
And,
so Wayne Simpson is with the I.A.T.S.E. Local 481. That's New England Studio Mechanics. What does I.A.T.S.E. stand for?
The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees.
Okay.
It's a national, international with Canada union that was formed in 1893. So there's some locals involved. In fact, Local 11, with the stage local in Boston, was founded in 1883. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did I say 19?
Yeah.
1883. We are the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Moving Picture Technicians, and Allied Crafts of the United States, its territories, and Canada is the full name of our. I think I got that right. I hope I didn't leave anything out.
It looks great on a certificate, I'm sure. So there we go.
So it's a big union with a labor union with a lot of different crafts in it and a lot of different departments. There's the stagecraft department that handles theaters, traditional theaters, and there are also events and concert division. We are in the motion picture and television division, and the crafts, although related, are separate. In other words, there's not too much crossover between the different crafts.
Admiring your pin, by the way, your lapel pin, the old test pattern. Is that what that's modeled after?
This is our IA 481 pin, and this is a pride pin that the IA just started a pride committee, and I happened to be at an IA meeting today for our district, so I picked up this pin. I thought I'd wear it on the air because we're very happy to represent everybody.
And supportive of
support everybody.
That's the best way of saying it. Instead of worrying about who, it's everybody. That's the best way to say it. So I would suggest then that we talk about television, because we're here with television. You mentioned the television. So if I go to, I'm just asking, if I could say go to WCVB up at Channel 5 up in Newton, and I were to walk in the front door and then I'd mosey into the studio, would I find your people behind the cameras?
You won't find IA members. That's television stations are generally organized, if they're union, which we hope they are. We hope the members have the benefits of organized organized labor, are organized by a different union. In this particular case, Channel 5 is organized by the IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. There's another television union, the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, that organizes some other stations, including WGBH, or the local Boston Channel 2. We handle some network television, but not a lot.
It's more production work then, or
it's more film and traditional film and television.
Okay.
And we've been around here. I've started working on pictures and commercials in 1983.
Okay.
Here there were already a core group of. I've committed a terrible faux pas because I left my phone on stage with the volume up.
Well, I was just going to say that you
I
have,
should be, of all
you
people,
have
should
done
know
this.
better.
That's right?
The first thing I do when I get on a set is turn my phone volume off.
And then I'm sure as a manager, you say, hey, I told you people to turn off the phones. So that's actually great. That's great.
It comes early.
So we're not going to edit that out. We're going to leave it right in there. I love it. I love it. So just to show we're all a little bit human. That's a cool thing. So with the television, how do I phrase it? So with the brotherhood that does the backstage operations, you had mentioned before we came on air that you're very comfortable behind the camera, but not in front of the camera. So what is so let's talk about your history and how you got into television and broadcast.
I was working, I've always been somewhat technically inclined. You know, I like to do things. My dad had a shop in the basement, and we'd tinker with all kinds of stuff, and he was a biochemist, and he was a tinkerer. And
okay.
So I got a job when I moved to Boston in 1979 at the Science Museum in the Audiovisual and Technical Services Department, fixing slide projectors, and then we started doing audiovisual things for exhibits.
Were you one of the kids in school that pushed the cart that had the TV on top of it?
I wasn't really.
You weren't part of the audiovisual club?
No, I was sort of
part of the audiovisual club. I thought I had a kindred spirit here.
More of a science nerd.
Okay.
I liked the work, and we were doing design stuff for exhibits, and then that was during the very early days of when largely a technological advance, the cameras and video equipment got small enough and cheap enough for corporations to start buying stuff and putting on, using it for their purposes.
Sure.
So we started doing exhibits.
And then with the invention of the internet and the ability to broadcast, that had to be such a boon to the industry.
Much later, but yeah, so I was kind of interested in learning more about film and video, and there was a sort of part-time actor who worked in the planetarium who handed me a little slip of paper and said, so-and-so is making a movie. It was a fairly well-off BU student who was making his thesis film. I called him up, I worked on it, I met a couple of people in the...
it's all about networking.
And everybody I know in this business, all the freelancers, we're all freelance. The whole business is pretty much a freelance network. Everybody has a different story about how they got in. So it's really, and some people start working in cable stations. They get some experience. They want a higher level of work, and to make a living at it. And they start working for local production companies, and then they start seeing that they meet people, and it's all about meeting people and networking.
and again, I'm not an expert in this industry at all, but I found the people I met who we met here at Cable Access that a lot of the career opportunities happen through networking and through creating your own production company and finding a market for whatever creative outlet or creative idea that you have. Is that pretty much true? Or
that can be true. It can also be a very more sort of blue collar kind of thing where you know somebody who works as a technician or craftsperson on film. There are carpenters. We a lot of our members are carpenters, and they freelance on sets, and some of them work all the time on pictures and shows, and some of them work part-time, and they also do standard carpentry.
Interesting.
There's a lot of crossover of skills, for instance, in that department. There's some not. In other words, when you build a house, you don't use 1/4-inch Luan and 1x3 to build a wall.
Right.
But scenery has to be light and portable.
Because we're making the scenery, and it's all
going
theater.
To be changed, and if the camera, the director of photography decides they need to quickly remove a wall to get the camera back, carpenters, on-set carpenters buzz in, take the wall out, just like that, and put it back if they need to with exactly the same way. And the painters come in and paint the seam, and you keep shooting. That's sort of the skills that are required.
We have a theater here in Foxborough. I'm the manager up there, and we do a lot of set building and then set tearing down, and every week there's something new coming in. So, but we have the luxury of time, whereas on a set, when you're paying crew and you're paying for space, it's got to be a lot more high pressure and a lot more turnover as far as people who are skilled and know what to do, how to do it, and each person does their job. So I suppose that would go towards the need for unionized workforce, has the skills and the content, and actually finding people. Because in this labor market, where do you find somebody who can make a Luan?
It's an interesting
a pretend dresser
question. I mean, these people come from all over, and what it does require, really, I can say the one, the skill it does require is motivation and the ability to watch carefully what's going on around you, pay attention, and not hang back when there's something to do. You look for things to do when you're on a set. You may not be required immediately to jump in, but you're always looking around to say, what's next, what's coming up. And again, planning is a huge part of it. It isn't thrown together at the last second on a big show.
Just curious, is that the director's job? Does the directors manage that piece of it also?
Generally, the director doesn't. It's a very hierarchical organization, film production. And it has to be. When you start doing independent videos and with your friends or with a small company, you can get away with people doing a bunch of different jobs and sort of everybody doing everything. And as you get bigger, you start realizing that doesn't work. Things get put away. People aren't specialized. They don't really know how to handle certain pieces of equipment. Stuff gets lost or broken, and you soon learn that you need a more professional gang to do the work. It's just the nature of the beast.
Sure. I'm here with Wayne Simpson, of course, with the I.A.T.S.E, Local 481, the New England Studio Mechanics. So with your background in film and television production work, how involved are you with the generation of the business? The reason I ask is, we all enjoy movies, and we all enjoy, the Wahlbergs being in movies, and Matt Damon local, and Ben Affleck local, and everybody making films here. But that may not continue forever. And what is the future of the film industry, do you think, in New England? Because and the reason I ask is that maybe one of my camera operators here might be thinking, hey, this sounds really cool. I would like to get into studio production work, or maybe remote production work, or something along those lines. And this would be a career path. Is it going to be a career path, in your opinion, in the future?
We certainly hope so. It's a very portable business. It can be. Productions typically would come here before the tax incentive. They would come here and rent an industrial warehouse space and build sets in it and use locations nearby. And they would come here for various reasons. We do have experienced crews. We do have equipment availability, and usually they wanted locations specific to New England or Boston, for example. And during certain lean years, back in the early 2000s, for example, there was a little drought for various political reasons. And the only film that shot here was Mystic River, because Clint Eastwood insisted that it be shot where it took place. That otherwise it might have gone to Toronto for money reasons. We're starting to build up films.
You do see a lot of films shot in the
all over
British Columbia. And
right now,
Toronto.
Atlanta's very hot. We are very hot right now, and for quite a number of years. And we're building up quite a significant infrastructure, so that producers know when they come here they can get solid crews. They can crew up a number of pictures, and quite a number at this point. It is a volatile business. There's no question about it. And we, in our crafts that we organize, are essentially pretty much all the behind the scenes crafts, not actors, and not talent, and not certain other crafts like camera, for instance. That's a separate local within the IA. Not hair and makeup, not scenic artists, in other words, the painters generally who do some of that work. But most of the other crafts, and I could go through the whole list, and there would be names that you see in credits: grips, gaffer, all those.
I'm going to ask the question. I got to ask it. What's a best boy?
A best boy is generally there's two best boys on a production. There's the best boy electric, the best boy grip. Best boy is an old slang term, and there's tons of slang in this business, and we kind of like it that way because it confuses people. Best boy is generally the second in the grip department and the electric department. So electric or set lighting department. So for instance, the best boy grip Generally is almost a manager of the department.
Okay.
The key grip, another word you see, is the head of the grip department. They do rigging and camera cranes and dollies and lots of tasks having to do with sort of hardware.
Sounds like the mechanical side of it.
Making things work. Yeah, in fact, in Italian, it's meccanisti. That's what the grips are. They're mechanics, essentially.
Okay.
The best boy is the second and really the manager of the department. Make sure that they have the right equipment for the upcoming shots. Make sure the crew is booked. If they need extra crew for an upcoming, they're in charge of maintaining the department, while the key grip and the gaffer, who's the head of the lighting department, are right next to the director of photography and working with him directly on set.
Okay.
So that's a best boy.
All right, so the mysteries of life are revealed, everybody. We now know what the best boy is, who he or she is, and there we go.
It doesn't have to be a man, but you still call them best boys, although, there's some fights about that going on.
Well, it's always an ongoing
Right.
path as to what is the best way to describe ourselves. So, speaking with Wayne Simpson, who is with the I.A.T.S.E, Local 481, the New England Studio Mechanics. On a personal level, are there any films that you've worked on that are really cool that you have in your memory banks that stand out? Because if you've been in the industry for this long, it's one of those things where, well, let me ask this way. Are you still excited about going to work every day, or has it gotten to that point where, all right, I'm going to go set up this camera, that camera, I'm going to do this? Is it still something that is passion?
I am going to be very direct with you and say it's work.
It is work.
It's
it's not all just Tom
necessarily
Cruise driving a car and
a job like any other. I am particularly not that impressed with actors in general, or being next to a famous actor. I really don't care. They're doing a job just like me.
I was going to say, because your job is to make sure that the back office essentially is all functioning, ready for whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we're all. What I do enjoy, I enjoy the teamwork aspect of motion picture production. I enjoy the fact that basically everybody's got to pitch in and work pretty hard. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. Mm-hmm. In other words, it depends on everybody to do their jobs. You'll see on a typical film when it's actually being shot, you don't see much. You'll see a little huddle around the camera usually, and you'll see people standing there, and then you'll see somebody moving, not running, but moving pretty fast to do something. And then that person might go stand, there's somebody else running in, and then they roll and the actors do their thing. And you don't see much, big explosions or anything like that. It's not all explosions. But there's always, something going on. And there's a very, we have radios we listen to. We know exactly what's going on when we need to jump in and when we don't.
And I would think that every film would have to be a little unique in that each film has a different director and a different production team and a different story. No. And so it's not all going to be at the same intersection on Beacon Street taking pictures.
We do get plenty of repetition, and it's interesting because this the way we work, economists actually have a name for it, or it's called the Hollywood model. And it doesn't only apply to Hollywood, but it's now almost transitioned into what they call the gig economy. In other words, you get a group of professionals who are fairly highly trained, who don't know each other necessarily, although it does help if we have the same crews because we kind of know how each other work.
Sure.
But we all know our crafts. We come in, we're able to immediately assemble and get productive right away with very little ramping up for a particular period of time, the period that the movie's being shot, and then we all disperse and we get other jobs, or we take time off, or whatever. But this is a real, this is the way that it works in our industry.
Okay, interesting. So I'm speaking with Wayne Simpson, who's with the I.A.T.S.E. We're close to being out of time, but I wanted to ask a few more questions of, again, I go back to how does one break into the industry? And, I'm curious to know, do I have to, and you mentioned yourself that you were a science nerd, and I made the joke that I was with the Audiovisual Club. But it would seem to be there have to be some sort of combination of both, because if you don't like AV, then why would you be doing this in the first place? And if you don't have that technology or that skill background or that trade background, then it seems as though it'd be like any other job that you wouldn't be trained for. I'll just ask this because I know there's apprentice programs. Are there apprentice programs in this industry?
There aren't really in the motion picture world. It's very difficult to organize one, because if you get called, we don't, producers need to pay the crew. We're not going to have interns be apprentices doing the work of professionals. And it's not an entry-level position when you work on a professional motion picture production. So to join, for instance, just to join our local, you need a certain amount of experience related to the craft that you're joining in. For instance, carpentry skills are very useful. You don't have to have worked on sets. If you have cable TV experience, for example, and you're used to setting some lights and kind of, you know something about the way things, and you know when to be quiet, and when you can work and when you can't, that's a step up right there. You might be able to get in as an electric, set lighting technician or a grip. We do need some experience, and in order to start doing this stuff, what you really need to do is do it. You need to find people who are doing it. You need to have motivation, because it's very self-driven. Nobody's going to come and ask you to be a property person, for example, or a set painter. You'll have to sort of do it, and you see when you're on a cable set like this, and you start looking around and you say, oh well, the curtain, that backdrop is a little wrinkled, or it needs a little fixing, or I can see the edge of it is poking out of the camera. You go and just take care of it. You don't wait for instructions unless somebody else is assigned to do it, in which case you ask them. You have to be motivated, and you get to know people, and eventually you start climbing, getting a higher quality of jobs and getting more experience, and you sort of decide which way you want to go, or it gets decided for you.
So it does sound as though the networking aspect of it is legitimate, because
Absolutely.
It's not a thing where you're just applying for a 9-to-5 job.
Very much not. And what I always tell people who are getting into the business or thinking about it is, don't get good at anything you don't want to do, because you will start getting, if they like you will start getting called. And it's very hard to turn down work, and all of a sudden you wanted to be a director of photography, but all of a sudden you might find yourself painting sets, which may be fine, but if you didn't want to do that, be careful, because if you're good at it, you'll keep getting hired.
So I guess the key word is to know where you want to go, keep your eye on the prize,
or be open.
Then you have to sort of create your own path too, though.
Yeah, most people I know either, it really varies. Either really kind of found their own way bit by bit, or else they started out right away doing something. For instance, somebody's brother, and suddenly lost a job or something, and then they had skills, and the brother said, "Come on in, you can work on some sets, and I'll get you trained." That happens, or a friend, whatever. That happens pretty often. You ask 20 people how they got into and you'll get into the business. You'll get 25 different stories.
Right. That's great. Well, it seems like it's something that you enjoy.
I've always appreciated the flexibility that being freelance and working in this business gives me. And it's certainly not glamorous, but it does have it's exciting to go to different locations, and you're doing different things, and you're problem solving.
Well, I was also going to say it has to be exciting to see the final product and say, I had a piece of that.
Bob, I haven't watched a movie I've worked on in 25 years.
Well, that's okay. I don't watch my own program here, so I do. So don't be fooled by that. So, Wayne Simpson, I am so glad that you've been here.
Thanks.
I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to remind everybody at home that Wayne is with I.A.T.S.E. Local 481. New England Studio Mechanics are the ones who do the television and film behind the camera work, all the props, all the sets, and making sure that everything that you see is supposed to be what you see. It's a fascinating industry. It's one that is not going to be outsourced, and hopefully it's one that's here in New England for many, many years to come. You've made a career at it and seem to be a very happy, healthy individual, so maybe it's something that somebody at home, maybe one of our volunteers here at Foxborough Cable Access will do. You never know.
Absolutely. It's a great way to get into it.
Excellent. Wayne, thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And if you missed any part of this program, of course, you can catch us at www.fcatv.org or be a subscriber on our YouTube channel. And of course, we all love Foxborough Central because that's us. We're out of time. I want to thank you for being here, and until next time, have a great day, Foxborough.